So you want to go there? Well, baby, you better strap in. Let me say this loud and clear for all the white liberal women in the way back. There is never, nor will there ever, be a justifiable reason or excuse to murder a child. Secondly, let me make this little observation. The same women who are out here cheering and rooting and supporting Lindsey Clancy in this case are the same damn women who will call CPS on you if they catch you disciplining your children in public. Furthermore, not only should Lindsey Clancy go to prison, so should her husband Patrick and the grandmother. Because who in their right damn minds would not step in if they heard their wife or their daughter utter the words that she's having thoughts about harming their children? That is an immediate red flag. And I'm not saying you need to strip the children away from her, but you need to step in and make sure there is continuous supervision. Give her support. Try to find better help for the mother. The moment she told Patrick to go on an errand, I would have been like, hell no, dog. Nope. I'm sitting right here. Or the kids are going with me. Not because he hates his wife or whatever, but because he loves his children and he knows his wife is struggling. Oh my God. Let me just go ahead and end this video here with this last note of where I stand in this whole case. And I want you to hear me very freaking clearly when I say this. The only people that I have sympathy for in this whole case are the 3 children who innocently lost their lives because nobody in that damn family gave 2 shits about protecting the children.
Well, Corinne writes, I know you're busy, but I'd love to know your thoughts on the Lindsey Clancy case in Massachusetts. I made my thoughts clear on this the moment that she was arrested, the moment that it made the news. Lindsey Clancy is obviously not guilty. There are a fleet of doctors who should be imprisoned for what they put her on. I regularly speak out against Big Pharma. They get away with murder all the time. And in this case, they are getting away with the murder of really her 3 children, but also completely destroyed her life. When Lindsey Clancy, in my opinion, is not guilty. She was put into an intentional psychosis when she probably just needed to give her kids away for a weekend to get better, but they constantly give you these drugs that do not make things better. And the cocktail of 10 pharmaceuticals that she was on is absolute madness. Absolute madness.
Lindsey Clancy trial day 18. The defense has officially rested its case, and here's everything you missed from this morning. The day started with Dr. Philip Resnick. There was some Wi-Fi and lagging issues, but once they got that sorted out, he introduced himself as a forensic psychiatrist who's testified in many high-profile cases like Dahmer and Casey Anthony. He said 4 months after the crime, he did a personal evaluation on Lindsey and her parents to gain information, and even spent 3 months interviewing her. After all that, he diagnosed her with bipolar 2 with severe depression. He said on the day of the crime, not only did she hear a command, she felt her body was taken over by an external force in a dream state and did not have control of her own body, like she was a puppet and someone else was pulling the strings. And then immediate sidebar. Reddington then asked him about the criminal culpability of her actions, and he said there's 2 things to consider here: whether she had control of her actions and whether she knew what she was doing was wrong. And he said she had neither. She was simply following a command, and she tried multiple times to even take her own life. He then said there are 5 categories for a motive to filicide, which is when a parent takes the life of their child, and said Lindsey fits in 2 of those categories. The first category he said that Lindsey fits into is called altruistic filicide, which is when a murder is committed out of love rather than hostility, like trying to save a child from something and thinking it's in the best interest of that child to take its life. The second category he said that Lindsey fits into is called acutely psychotic filicide, which is when someone is psychotic and out of touch with reality, and instead of acting on a rational motive, they're simply acting out of psychosis. So in conclusion, he said no, she was not able to conform her conduct to the requirements of the law. He said in her mind, she believed she was saving her children, and if they continued to exist, they would be miserable and not have a decent life. Prosecution then cross-examined and talked about how he has written books and courses about people lying about their illnesses. They talked about how most women who take their kids' lives do it out of hostility and don't have mental illnesses. They also tried saying that Lindsey acted right after hearing the voices, but he said no, she did after a period of time, and the command was her final straw. And they said postpartum depression doesn't happen 8 months after the birth of a child, and he said though it's not typical, it can. The defense then officially rested its case, and the prosecution is now bringing up 3 rebuttal witnesses to come up and testify. Let me know what you guys think about this, but rest in peace to her poor children, and as the trial continues, I'll keep you guys updated.
She admitted to strangling all 3 of her kids to death, the youngest of which was only 8 months old. And that part is important because she's claiming now that she had postpartum psychosis at the time, 8 months after she had had the kid. That is Lindsey Clancy, and she has somehow become the online feminist's new hero. And there are literally thousands of women making videos justifying what she did. Bro, she killed her kids! It takes 6 to 8 minutes of sustained not getting any oxygen for a human being to die. And she did this to all 3 of her children. Now, some of these women are trying to blame her husband Patrick, even though Lindsey confessed and Patrick wasn't even home when it happened. While others are saying that Lindsey's not guilty because of the postpartum that was happening. Bro, that would be like me beating the hell out of my wife and then trying to blame it on my ADHD. Don't get me wrong, postpartum psychosis is a real life thing and it's absolutely terrifying, but for it to kick in 8 months after the birth is highly unlikely. And even if that is what caused her to kill her 3 children, what the fuck are we talking about? She still killed her 3 children! What I find just as terrifying as this woman sliming all 3 of her kids is the women making videos saying, that could be any of us, that could be me! Well then bitch, someone needs to come and take away your kids! Whatever was going through her mind when she did this disgusting act does not overshadow the reality that she did it. Those kids' lives were brutally taken away from them, and the same needs to happen to her.
Lindsey Clancy's case is coming to a rapid end right now. The defense has rested. Prosecution is presenting its rebuttal case. Let's talk about it. I'm a lawyer and a journalist. Here are the answers to the questions you want answered. Now that the defense has rested, they cannot put up any more witnesses. Lindsey Clancy will not testify. Their case is done. Prosecutors have their rebuttal case, which is expected to potentially end today. Once that ends, you're going to have what is called a charge conference. The prosecution and defense are going to finalize the jury instructions, what the judge is going to read the jury. The judge is then going to instruct the jury, and you'll have closing arguments as soon as probably Monday. And then the jury will get their case, and they're going to go deliberate. And when we talk about verdict, there are a whole host of possibilities in terms of verdict. We'll ultimately see the jury instructions, and I'll tell you what all those possibilities are. There is a possibility for a hung jury, which means that you don't get a unanimous jury. You need all 12 jurors to agree on a verdict in this case, in any criminal case. If you don't get all 12, then, well, you have what is called a hung jury. People have asked me what is jury nullification. That is not legal. A jury is not allowed to nullify. Jury nullification is the idea that the jury goes into the deliberation room and essentially rejects the charges even though there is evidence to support the charges. It's because they reject the law or its application. Jurors are not allowed to do that. But then again, you'll never actually know because you can't pierce that veil into the jury room. It is nearly impossible to figure out what happens inside the jury room. So this case is rapidly ending right now. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Follow.
This case has gotten the internet again buzzing and talking in the midst of cases that have, been on the internet space, bordering on murder charges and all that. The final day of the preliminary was, witnessed with women turning up massively. Even one of the reporters for a known TV station showed up all wearing pink and chanting in solidarity of Lindsey. And the question is, did she actually do it? Even though medical examiners for her are saying that she's suffering from post-mental psychosis, she was not in a stable condition or mental position when she actually carried out the that study art that she was under the influence. Others are also, laying blames and saying, why is the husband and the grandmom not under, investigation, or why are they not also charged for murder? If they were aware of Lindsey's mental condition, why were they quiet about it? And why is no one talking about the innocent lives that these children, these kids, their lives were cut short? Some are also saying that if it were to be a veteran, for example, who is suffering from post-war trauma and had unalived his kids, that the whole matter would have been a different thing. One of the ladies whose video we shared here said is, as far as they are concerned, that she knew what she was doing. When you did the first, you took the life of the first, the second, and the third and the fourth, you unalived these kids. You obviously knew what you were doing. Like, it took approximately 6 minutes for life to, leave a human body. So I want to know what your thoughts, your opinions are, because I strongly believe that if this was a person of color or melanated skin, this matter would have, turned out in a very, very different way. But that is just my opinion. The jury is yet to decide finally on what is to be happening, but this is the update on ground on what is happening, and we're waiting to hear the, final case being determined by the juries. We just had our professional experts give us their own personal analysis of what they think could likely happen at the end of this case proceeding. But all of that, we're still folding our hands and we're watching, and we're hoping that it represents the mind, the will of people, and justice all put together. If you're coming across my YouTube channel, you're welcome. Feel free to let us know what your thoughts are.